6/18, a new law takes effect this week targeting the fentanyl crisis here in the Lone Star State. It brings stiff consequences for dealers and changes the way overdoses are tracked. GMET's Lorena Rivas went to an East Texas nonprofit to find out how the law could prevent these kinds of deaths in the future.
During the Texas regular session, HB 6 was passed to fight against the fentanyl crisis. The new law will increase the criminal offense to murder if supplying fentanyl results in death. The law also requires deaths caused by fentanyl to be labeled as fentanyl toxicity or fentanyl poisoning on a death certificate. Kim Barthel with the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Council of Deep East Texas says this will help tracking data in the future.
Us track that a little easier. Right now it's hard to track exactly how many overdoses are happening, where they're happening.
Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is up to 50 times stronger than heroin, making it very deadly, including here in East Texas.
We're seeing a lot more overdoses from Nacogdoches down to Beaumont. We have the highest rate of overdoses in the state of Texas per capita.
Something that Melissa Black, an opioid nurse at Christus Health, is also seeing.
Last year, Smith County was the highest with 11 fentanyl overdose deaths.
It takes just 2 milligrams of fentanyl to be considered a lethal dose. For perspective, that's equal to 10 to 15 grains of table salt.
There's no taste, there's no smell, you don't know that you're taking it.
For Barthel, some ways to battle against this opioid epidemic is through seeking help.
Recovery coach steps in and they walk with them every step of the way, waiting until they get into treatment. While they're in treatment, even post-treatment, recovery coaches are there to help them.
For Good Morning East Texas, I'm Lorena Rivas.
Now, the new law takes effect this Friday.